What's up, guys? We are back for another Overwatch Ultimates review, taking a look at, what, the second tank so far in this line? Sure, that sounds about right. We're taking a look today at Zarya. This is one of the single pack figures from Wave 2. She, of course, comes in our standard style Overwatch packaging, so you've got a big shot of her there. On the side, you've got the figure in the window, and then on the side, you've got her specialization, so her tank status. You've got that artwork on the back, a lineup, and then some stats for the character. So let's do it. Let's pull her out and take a look. And here she is out of the package, our Zarya figure. And I gotta say right off the bat that this thing is pretty wild. There is so much more going on with this figure than I thought there was going to be at first glance. Not to mention the fact that she is much larger than a lot of other figures, but she has just some wild details, wild sculpt, and she has some really crazy accessories that we're going to get to. So let's take a look at Articulation first. She is fairly standard for the line, not exactly the same, but she does have a bit of a crazy difference in terms of body proportions as well. So she has most of the same kind of stuff that we expect to see with a lot of these other figures. So the head can look pretty much all the way up, and she can look all the way down. Rotate side to side. The arms go out all the way, a little bit more than 90 degrees. You rotate at the shoulder. She does not have butterfly joints though. You've got a bicep swivel, double jointed elbows on a Hasbro female figure, although of course she is larger than a lot of male figures, so that's really the reason why here. So you've got that, so that's great on its own. Wrist rotation, she has got horizontal hinges on her left hand, vertical hinges on her right. That's because this particular character is meant to hold her gun in a specific way, her main weapon, so her hands are built to do that. She's got an upper diaphragm cut, so she can go forward, she can go backwards, side to side, and then rotates. It is pretty limited just based on the fact that she is so, for lack of a better term, thick. So you've got some movement there, but not as much as some of the other female figures like, say, Tracer. She does have a crunch as well, so it helps her to go forward pretty decently, though. Legs go out really far for such a humongous set of thighs. Kick forward way more than they need to. Backwards a little bit, thigh cut. You've got double jointed knees, and I gotta say the detents in these things are ridiculously tight. So watch out, I've already pinched my fingers in these knee joints more than once, but they do go pretty far back. And then you've got rotation at the ankle. It's a ball up here that rotates, so rotates, and then you've got rocker, and you've got hinges. So she has pretty good articulation. She is a little limited when it comes to her torso, and she doesn't have the butterfly joints that a lot of figures have, but she has a lot of possibilities when it comes to poses, and it really works well with the overall size and build of this figure in terms of how they decided to implement her joints. And she's got double jointed elbows, and it's a female. You really can't go wrong. Now, in terms of the sculpt and the aesthetics, this figure is pretty solid. I don't really have any true gripes on this one. I think proportions are fantastic here. There's no instances of kind of the small head syndrome that I experience on a lot of these other figures. And this particular one is quite large. She's about 7 inches tall. There is a lot of figure here because Zarya is enormous in the game. She's certainly not the biggest character, but she is larger than a lot of other characters, and it's reflected really well in this one. So you have, you know, your Russian Powerlifter here, and she looks just fantastic. Honestly, I don't really have anything negative to say about this figure. I think that she looks like she jumped right out of the game. The colors are vibrant. The sculpt is just crazy. Everything that you should expect to see here, from the kind of svelte, thick torso with the body armor, to the floating belt piece that she has, to the enormous legs on this figure that are covered in body armor. Everything here is really well represented. The tampos on the armor are nicely done. The tattoo on her arm is really well done. And just everything about this one works really, really well. I think a lot of that comes into play from the fact that she is a little larger than some of these other figures, so there's a lot more real estate to work with. Just like I was a big fan of Reinhardt, and he has a lot of real estate to make that particular character look just like the game. The same thing's going on here. There is a lot more different ways to bring out this character's look, from the suit she's wearing to just the overall proportions from the larger lower half and the still larger upper half that is kind of disproportionate from one another. You know, she certainly looks like she has got some massive tree trunk legs, and they did a great job bringing this one to life. You know, I've already got the GameStop Carbon 4-pack on pre-order that has Zarya in it, and I'm really looking forward to already getting a second one of these, because I think they did just an amazing job from a sculpt and paint perspective. But really the shining example of why this figure is so great is the head sculpt, and I'm honestly really surprised by that. And frankly, that's because a lot of the head sculpts on these figures so far have been kind of small. They kind of skewed a little on the small side, but Zarya, I think, is really well proportioned, and I think they absolutely nailed this head sculpt, the face printing, and this hair color is superb. It's really vibrant and bright, and it clashes with the suit color for her armor. It's just an incredibly well done head of hair. Nice windswept look. It very much evokes a game look. You've got the big cross scar on her forehead, and just the face looks perfect. It looks, again, like she jumped right out of the game. I have zero problems with anything going on from the neck up on this one. And of course, since I've kind of harped on and on about how big this figure is, we have to do size comparisons to some other figures in the line. So we've got the recent Chrome Genji and the Posh Tracer figure. And you can see that Genji is pretty similar in terms of height. He is still a little bit on the short side, but in terms of overall build and just plastic, there is a tremendous difference, and Tracer is absolutely diminutive by comparison. So Zarya has a lot of plastic going on. She has a great deal of size and has a good shelf presence when compared to a lot of the other figures in this line, for sure. Now, as far as accessories goes, Zarya might have my favorite weapon that we've gotten so far in this line. I think that Hasbro has just done a bang-up job with this one, and it's pretty crazy. This gun is bigger than some of the figures in this line so far. It is massive. So the particle cannon that she has is truly unique. It has a tremendous amount of sculpted details on it, a lot of different parts, translucent pieces for the actual particle kind of orb that sits in the middle. You've got whites and reds and blacks and golds for the actual cannon part of it. But just look how big this thing is. It's humongous. If there is one downside to this thing, is that balance is going to be key with this, because not only is it large, but it's also relatively heavy. And obviously Zarya is quite a bit larger than most of the Overwatch figures, but this thing is still quite a bit heavier than you might expect. So it does do everything that it needs to. You know, you've got the handle here on the side so she can hold it. It's basically meant to be held this particular way, especially with, as I mentioned, she has different types of hinges on her wrists specifically for this gun. So, I mean, it's a massive piece of plastic, but it looks damn near perfect. And it does, of course, have an energy effect, because that's pretty much a key thing for this line. And it's enormous. This thing is almost as tall as Zarya herself, so it ports in to the barrel here, and this thing is definitely going to throw your balance off. It's definitely been a bit cumbersome to actually pose her and get her to stand upright with it. She wants to lurch forward when it's done. You can kind of get her to hold it upright and use the detents in the shoulders to actually kind of position it correctly. So you're just gonna have to work with it. It's definitely a little more difficult than it needs to be. I'm not sure it's something that I'm permanently going to have it in the gun, but when you get it right, she just looks amazing with it. So, you know, it's something that it is a little bit more difficult to use, but it looks fantastic. And what's interesting about Zarya is that because of the fact that she has two really massive weapon type accessories, she doesn't come with nearly as much stuff as the rest of the line. So her only other accessories are two fist hands. So if you want to have her flexing or just punching the crap out of somebody, you've got the option to go that route. But come on, you cannot not love this thing. It's just an amazing accessory. It's the perfect thing for this character. So overall, this is a winner. There is no doubt in my mind that this is one of, if not the must-have figure in this line so far. I really wasn't expecting her to be this good. I was really looking forward to the figure because I'm a big fan of playing Zarya. She is one of my favorite characters to play in the game. But this figure is truly rock solid. Fantastic sculpt, great articulation, great paint applications, an amazing accessory, despite the fact that it does introduce some balance issues, but she is just a complete package. I think they did a fantastic job with this one, and I'm really, really glad that I've gotten a hold of this one sooner rather than later. She is, again, not to repeat myself, but she is one of the must-have figures in this line, no doubt. There is just a lot of cool stuff going on here. So that's going to do it for this look at the Overwatch Ultimates Zarya figure. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.